Hello everyone, welcome back to another instalment. This is the Good Bit Podcast. It is a pleasure to have you here with us. This is the podcast where actors chat about their favourite movies with me, your host Chris Moffat. Thank you very much for tuning in again this week. We are chatting about an absolute classic, ladies and gents. It is John Carpenter's The Thing from 1982, as we'll go on to, one of the greatest years in cinema history. And what an incredible film. We're finally going to get to chat about this absolute classic right here that kind of debuted a lot of things in cinema, changed cinema at the time. We're going to get into it right now with an amazing guest. Returning to the show is Michael Geary, who made his first appearance in the Oppenheimer movie discussion video, or podcast I should say, that we did with the Damn Good Voices voiceover agency, along with Tyler Collins and Greg Jones. But Michael, it is a pleasure to have you back. How does it feel to be debuting on the podcast as a solo artist? Welcome.
I feel honoured and also really exposed. I've got nowhere to hide behind.
I know, this is all, I can't, continue on the myth that, Tyler Collins and Greg Jones I prefer to you because they've been on more times than you. That's not the case anymore. Now you've been on just as many times.
Aha! Well, that shows them, but I miss them too. I wish they were here to back me up.
No, I know. And listen, I loved that Oppenheimer episode that we did. I think it was around a month and a half ago, maybe like that. And
it's great
I like
fun.
the fact we talked about like a current film, which is kind of rare for me, which I quite liked, and I had a little bit more kind of analysis based on the fact I was joined by three experts as yourself and Greg and Tyler. So hopefully, if only there was a holiday coming up soon in the world where we could talk about some scary films. And maybe get all together again.
I mean, that's hard. I can't think of anything at the moment. But let me know if you think of something. That'd be great.
What we could do is we could create our own holiday, and just stick it at the end of October, and maybe talk about scary films.
Oh, I like that. So, like in an evening.
Maybe in the evening, and maybe if the
an
door
een,
goes,
if you will.
Yes. And if some children come to the door dressed up in costumes, we will take the camera and the mics and go and interview them. Maybe not for safeguarding reasons, but never mind.
Maybe not.
We were just talking before we started rolling there about some techniques used by the likes of John Carpenter and other iconic horror, scary movie makers. What are some of your favourite kind of horror films that we could maybe chat about at the end of the month?
Oh, well, I mean, I am a huge fan of John Carpenter, as you know. We'll be talking a bit more about his work later. But of course, he created Halloween, the one of the most amazing films made on a very low budget and had a huge return. Halloween, that's a good holiday. Why don't we do it around then?
Oh my God, I can't believe we forgot. I was just thinking Christmas.
There we are. We got it.
Okay.
So yeah, for a low budget film, it hit so big, and that was down to his amazing composition, brilliant performances, really creepy synth music, and a very, very simple idea about the boogeyman. And having Donald Pleasance doesn't hurt, does it? He's an amazing actor. So yeah, I love John Carpenter's movies. I love The Thing, obviously. I love Halloween. One of his later movies, well, later than The Thing and Halloween anyway, Prince of Darkness is extraordinary, as is In the Mouth of Madness. In fact, The Thing and Prince of Darkness and In the Mouth of Madness are known as the Apocalypse Trilogy.
Wow.
Because they all kind of spell out their own versions of what the end of the world might be.
Yeah, so he's got something about that end of the world kind of idea that he loves to kind of talk about. It's Escape from New York, John Carpenter?
John Carpenter as well, absolutely. Made before The Thing was made. But also talking about like horror movies that I love, Poltergeist is one of my favorites. Directed by Tobe Hooper, but produced by Steven Spielberg. And there's quite a lot of people who think, Spielberg had his fingerprints all over that movie. You can see it. It looks like a Spielberg film, but they maintain that Tobe Hooper he directed it, which is interesting because The Thing, the previous movie before The Thing from Another World, which is a 1950s sci-fi horror, black and white. Everyone talks very fast. was a Christian Nyby movie. That was the director, but the producer was Howard Hawks,
Yes.
and a lot of people say Hawks directed it. They say it's his style all over it.
Yeah, I was watching a documentary on the Arrow video release of The Thing that we're going to talk about.
The Arrow video release?
Almost as you've got a fancy copy. Is that a fancy slipcover or something?
This is the fancy slip copy of the Arrow release of The Thing. There you go. I'm doing a Greg Jones. I'm showing you my collection. That's for you, Greg.
Shout out to Greg, who we knows listening.
Yeah, I love this copy. It's great.
I've reversed the artwork on mine.
Very nice. Good for you. And why not? They're both excellent pieces. In fact, yeah, this is sort of a reimagining. In fact, I've got a book of all of the posters, all the alternative posters of The Thing, and then posters that have been made by artists since dedicating to The Thing. It's really great. I love that book.
There was so many alternative artwork that they made a whole book just on The Thing.
That's it. Yeah, and people
great.
are huge fans of it. They've just created new posters in the style that they wanted to show, which is fantastic.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in that documentary, I believe it's called, which one did I watch? Brand documentary. Who goes there in search for the thing?
Yeah.
And they talked about the Hawks kind of imprint on it from back in the day, and then how they decided to remake it later on in life. I have not seen that original one from the 50s. Is it the same film, or is it totally different?
No, it's not, because they couldn't make what they made obviously then, but they made their own version, and it was a little bit more about the communist menace. Really, that was the thing, about watching the skies, and you don't know who to trust. But in the Thing from Another World, it was a guy in a suit, big guy in a suit. I think it was James Arness, and they were just fighting this thing. But it's a good movie. It's got some really interesting characters. Unlike the 1981 version of the Thing, the 1950s version has female characters, which you don't have in the Thing. And it's a good movie. And the guy who plays the lead in that, he's a great actor. I can't remember his name right now, but he pops up in everything. But the one movie I always point him out to my poor Leanne, I always say every single time we watch it, go, that's, and she goes, yeah, I know, and yes, I know that Viggo Mortensen broke his toe when he kicked that helmet. God, please stop. She doesn't say that, but I wouldn't blame her if she did. No. Have you ever seen the movie Gremlins?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So in Gremlins, when he the father, Hoyt Axton Peltzer, he sells the guy in the garage the smokeless ashtray,
right? And
that guy kind of comes out coughing because it's smoking. That guy was the lead actor in The Thing from Another World.
He literally pops up in everything.
Yeah, he just pops up everywhere. I think he's even in Airplane. He pops up. He's just loads of bit parts, but he's really good in that movie. And he's in another monster movie in the 50s, and I can't remember what it's called, but he's smashing. But yeah, The Thing from Another World, I'm a great fan of, and John Carpenter loved. Right. And when he made The Thing, he said, "I'm not doing a remake because I love that movie. This is John W. Campbell's Who Goes There." Yeah, essentially, and you know how much of a fan John Carpenter is of The Thing from Another World, because if you watch the movie Halloween, one of the kids that Laurie Strode is looking after, I think it's Laurie Strode is looking after, he's watching the movie The Thing from Another World on TV.
Don't you love that? It's like being rewarded for knowing that that's a thing. No pun intended. You kind of go, oh, I get it, It's like if you know, and it's kind of a wee reward you get.
Easter eggs aren't a new thing.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Another holiday of the year that we could maybe celebrate.
Absolutely, yeah. There are not many scary movies associated with that, though, but there should be.
There should be.
There should be.
I don't know if there's many Easter films either.
Right. It's a couple, I guess. But out of all the horror movies I love, I said John Carpenter, definitely. Poltergeist is fantastic. And when I was about 14, Channel 4 was showing classic horrors. And I just happened to switch over, and this black and white movie started. I was like, oh, what's this? And it was Night of the Living Dead. And that
Oh,
really rung true with me. I was like, wow, this is amazing, because I realized that it's not about the zombies on the outside. It's about the
right.
people and their relationships on the inside of that farmhouse, and how it goes quite badly. And that got me onto Romero. And I love his movies. Real Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, of course, is a classic. Day of the Dead is fantastic. Then you get Land of the Dead, which I enjoyed, and then Diary of the Dead,
Wow.
and the last one I can't remember what it's called. But
Something of the Dead, most likely.
yeah, oh yes, you know it. Good.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's lots of really, the really great stuff in there, and I really enjoyed Romero's humor in those movies, and the idea of the 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 bleakness of the end of the world again. I don't know why it appeals to me. I think it appeals to a lot of people because it's something that we're constantly reminded of. It's mortality, isn't it? I guess.
Right, yeah.
But
I
it's
guess
very, very good.
because you really hope that obviously you don't see it in person, so by watching it on screen, it's kind of therapeutic in a way. You're getting to see it as a fictional thing rather than a possibility, I suppose.
Absolutely, absolutely. Although a friend of mine once told they were talking about dying, and this friend of my friend said to him, "Oh yeah, I know how I want to die." He went, "Oh, how?" He went, "I want to die when an asteroid hits the planet, because then I know everyone's coming with me." It's
I
really
suppose,
dark.
I suppose, however you want. I mean, people have thought about that before, but that one does seem a bit dark. That
That's
is something out of a movie, you know?
that's super dark. Yeah, I know. I was
Yeah.
like, oh my god. Anyway, that's a friend of a friend, so I
Yeah,
don't
of
know.
course. Yeah, definitely not your friend. You wouldn't be friends with someone like
Mm-mm-mm.
that. Um,
No way.
okay. What have you been watching recently? Is there anything on your screen? Have you had time to sit down and watch any new films or any TV series? Anything on rotation for you?
So, just the other night we watched "No One Will Save You," which is on
Oh,
Disney Plus, and it's really interesting movie. Do you know? Do you know about
don't
it?
think
I
so.
don't want to
No, is it?
spoil it, but it's an sort of home invasion, alien-y kind of movie. Well, it's very alien-y. No spoilers there because it becomes
Okay.
very apparent very quickly. But it's about a young woman who lives on her own in a beautiful big house. She seems to have a sort of dream life, but then you realize that she doesn't, and the people in the town that she lives near don't like her. We don't know why,
Okay.
and it's about what happens the night that that there's this invasion. And this is spoilers, by the way. I guess. Sorry, everyone.
That's all right. Yeah.
But what's amazing about it is that it's an hour and a half, or yeah, I think it's an hour and a half of no dialogue.
Oh,
No one speaks. And it's really interesting because the actor, again, whose name escapes me, is fantastic. I think she was one of the actors in Booksmart, if you know that film.
yes. I thought Booksmart was great.
Yeah, I can't remember her name. But apologies to her, but she was fantastic because not being able to speak is so exposing for an actor, and
Right.
she's brilliant. And what's really interesting is that movie has, even though it's a scary film, and a really exciting film, it has lots of comedy beats in there as well, which is really interesting. And there's a very fine line between comedy and horror, and they often
Yeah.
cross over.
Definitely. Definitely. That's interesting. So the whole film is no dialogue. Is the whole film an hour and a half, or is there more after that?
It's an hour and a half. The whole movie's an hour and a half. I think one line is spoken at one point.
Okay. Cool. Well, that is
Yeah,
definitely really interesting. I'll
yeah.
definitely check that out.
It's really cool. I liked it a lot. Yeah, it's great.
That's on Disney Plus.
Disney Plus, yeah, absolutely, and
Okay. Cool.
yeah, a lot of people have been enjoying that. So there's that. I'm trying to think what else. Haven't had an awful lot of time to watch many things, to be perfectly honest,
Yeah.
because been a bit busy. But that was a high point. And I like watching revisiting old movies. So we sat
Yeah. Me
down
too.
not so long ago, yeah, and we watched Back to the Future. And because I haven't seen it in ages, my God, it's a
Yeah.
perfect film. It's perfect.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of my favorite films of all time.
Yeah, it's gloriously done, and everyone's fantastic. But it's Michael J. Fox. My God, incredible. So
Yeah.
incredibly charismatic without any effort at all.
What's your opinions on the sequels?
Oh, what the Back to the Future and Back to the Future 3? Yeah, I love them. They're fantastic.
Yeah,
I really enjoy them. And again, you talk about well, not apocalyptic, but kind of dark movies. That second one
absolutely.
is
Yeah,
incredible. That weird. Well, it's not really the future, is it? The alternate present
right.
that we go through, where Biff is essentially Donald Trump.
Yeah,
Uh, it is really, it's really dark, and yeah, I love that, and the fact that they made 2 and 3 back to back is really wonderful,
yeah.
and I love the fact that, and again, this is another one I always repeat, uh, is that the town square set that they use uh, in Back to the Future, is it called Hill Valley?
Yes, Hill
For
Valley.
Hill
Yes.
Valley. Is the same town square set that they used for Gremlins.
Wow,
Yeah,
callback.
which
There you go.
that's
Yeah,
really nice. I love that. Yeah,
yeah. I can't believe we're actually approaching 10 years since the predicted future of Back to the Future 2, because it's 2015, right? It's
yeah.
2015 that they go to. You've got Jaws, that weird Jaws 7D thing coming out of the
Yeah,
screen.
brilliant.
What we all thought 2015, or what they thought 2015 was going to look like, and how drastically
Well,
disappointed.
it's so disappointing, and especially when they sell those things, kind of like the hoverboards, those things that people are having
Hoverboards, right?
terrible accidents on. You don't see many of them around now,
No.
and you look at them going, "That's not a hoverboard." Watch Back to the Future 2. That's a hoverboard.
Right. But yeah, I love them. I don't love the third one as much as the first two, but I love the fact that they had to go back and reshoot some things for the second one, and they do such a great job of it. For example, they've lost some of the actors, and they had to reshoot stuff because they wanted to carry on the scene directly from the end of the first one. And
Yeah,
there's loads of wee things like that when you know that afterwards, you just
yeah.
find a whole new appreciation for some of these classic films.
Well, yeah, and the craft behind it is extraordinary. And I think the train crash coming off that bridge, that was a scale model, wasn't it? But it was like a
Yeah,
really ambitious thing to do, because they can only do that once.
yeah,
Yeah, there's lots of good stuff in there, and like the man who plays Biff, again, can't remember his name. Sorry, anyone. He his character journey through all those 3 films is amazing.
yeah.
He's a really good actor.
Yeah, absolutely. And you hear all the stuff about, was it what's his name? Who plays Marty's dad? Glover. Crispin
Crispin
Glover.
Glover, yeah.
Yeah. All the stuff about him being like sort of strange on the set. Just adds to the kind of mystique, I think, of him as a character back in 1955, because he is a kind of awkward guy.
Yeah, and he had his way about him, but he was, again, brilliant, as was Leah
Absolutely.
Thompson, and she had a hard time, didn't she, because they replaced him in Back to the Future 2,
Yes.
and she found that I think, well, I seem to remember reading that she found that difficult, uh,
Yeah.
to because they've all grown very close on the set of Back to the Future.
Yeah,
I get that.
absolutely. I'd love to see the stage show. I don't know if you've had a chance to see
I
it.
haven't. I think it'd be obviously amazing. Yeah, I'd love to see it too.
I mean, I've been down in London like 3 or 4 times this year, and I
Right.
saw Phantom of the Opera, and I saw a couple other things, but I just missed back, and I saw Newsies, but I missed Back to the
Fantastic.
Future the musical. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I haven't seen that, but I am going to see Stranger Things on
Oh
stage.
wow,
Should be quite interesting.
that'd be really cool.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
So you mentioned Disney Plus being something that you're watching, or you just watched a massive film on.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've had a chance to see Ahsoka yet.
Not yet, and I really want to. And the problem is, all this stuff keeps coming out on social media about who's in it. I'm like, man, but
Right.
but it doesn't matter. It's fine, because I know I'm going to really enjoy it, and because I loved all during lockdown. I watched all the Clone Wars and
Yeah, me
Rebels and
too.
all that, and I thought they were the best. The Clone Wars, in my opinion, were the best Star Wars movies never made.
Right.
In a way,
Absolutely.
and but they were there, and the voice acting is superb. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
it's very cool.
as a voice actor, you're going to appreciate that so much more. You know what I mean? The kind of work
Oh,
that they go through with all the, even just like taking these iconic characters like Obi-Wan and Anakin and stuff like that, and doing their own spin on it.
yeah,
Um, and even the fact that the Ahsoka, voice work came first, essentially, because now Rosario Dawson is bringing her to life and doing a brilliant job of it.
So I hear, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Have you seen The Mandalorian? Are you caught up
I
with
have.
Mandalorian?
I saw when she appeared in that, and she was amazing.
Yeah.
And of course, was she in Book of Boba Fett as well?
I believe so, because I
with
get
Mark
mixed up
Hamill.
because it's like, Book of Boba Fett is essentially The Mandalorian season 3.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I think so. I think she was in one of the episodes.
Because I do love how she was like geeking out the fact that she was on set with the real Luke Skywalker. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
that's so cool. I love that. She's basically
Yeah.
one of us, because we do the same thing, wouldn't we? I wouldn't be able to move if I was.
I was literally about to say, I think there's a clip of her giving him a hug. There's no way I could do that.
No. I would just be frozen in place. I once, and I'm rubbish around a lot of people like that. But you like to think you're very cool when you meet
Right.
famous people. No, I'm not, and I've been lucky to meet a few. But I saw somebody once. I saw Henry Winkler in London. I was walking along. He was walking along. He was chatting away with some people, and I just saw him, and I caught his eye, and he kind of looked at me, and all I could do, and I was like 45 or something when I did it. And when I looked at him, I just went like that, like the Fonz, and he just went hi, and just carried on. All I could do was that. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it's funny when you get starstruck.
Yeah.
It's so weird. It's such a weird thing. I've met Dave Prowse, right?
Amazing.
I met him at a not Comic Con. It was like Collector Mania they did in Glasgow, and I met him there, and I got a 8x10 of Darth Vader from Empire Strikes Back signed, and it says, "To Chris, I am Darth Vader," or Dave Prowse is Darth Vader, and he signed it. So that was really cool. But I think I was like 15 or 16, right? So I'm in my head looking back, I think I was pretty cool. You know what I mean? I don't think I said anything, silly or whatever. But now I must have just not said much at all. But recently, I was at Wembley Stadium for a wrestling event at the end of August, and it's Wembley Stadium. There was 80,000 people there. So many people. You're kind of walking around the stadium. It's just a big crowd, and you get kind of overwhelmed and stuff.
Amazing.
And I saw like this wrestling journalist, right, a reporter. So not really that famous, right? But I know who they are because I'm a big wrestling fan, and I just follow them on YouTube or whatever.
Yeah.
And just by just seeing him, I was a bit like, oh, and I wanted to go take a picture with him, but like because he was walking, I'm assuming he was with his partner or whatever. I just couldn't get and he's just like this, just like me essentially. I'm putting out YouTube content and stuff, but because I know him and he's in the public eye, I guess. That kind of made me starstruck as opposed to meeting someone as famous as Dave Prowse.
But that's great because the lovely thing is he means something to you, and I think that's wonderful. And that, thank goodness for things like social media with YouTube and what we're doing here, and it's just everyone get their message out, and it'll mean something to somebody out there, and I love that. That's great.
Yeah. Just on the topic, who is like again some more famous people that you've met? Have you had a chance to work with anybody, or is there one person that you think that's the most famous person that I've met?
Well, I got to work with a few people recently, and I was on set with a brilliant actor called Brian Bovell, who's in Andor, but he's in loads of other things. He's a fantastic actor. Look him up. He's ace, a lovely man, and an amazing actor called Siobhan Redmond. Do you know her? Scottish actor.
Yes. Oh my God, she was in Dunsinane. What is she?
She's
the
in
Macbeth thing.
And then she's in Two Doors Down as well. I think is that.
Yeah.
She was lovely, brilliant, and also I met John Hannah, who was awesome. So yeah, I've been lucky enough to work with a few famous people. Years ago, I worked with Damian Lewis. I say work with him. I was in a couple of scenes. And he was lovely, and but generally people are really, really nice. Although I did once go to a party. This is crazy. You won't believe this. But a very, very, very long time ago, like in the 90s, I happened to be in a party in Hollywood. Oh, wow. And I was introduced to Paul Newman. And it sounds made up. But I was.
What did you just go?
I just went, yeah, I should have done that. But I didn't. I just went, and he just went, hi, I'm Paul. And I went, I know. Yeah. All I could think was like, his eyes are so blue. It was amazing. But at the same party, there was I don't like doing that, but I'll do it. I'll do it for you. At the same party, I saw the most of the cast of Star Trek: Next Generation. I jostled Dustin Hoffman at a buffet. I didn't know it was him, and and Morgan Freeman walked into the room at one point as well. So I was freaking out. I don't know what was going on. I was not cool. I was not cool there. It was crazy. But
Oh man,
everyone
that's
seemed
great.
very nice. What's amazing about parties like that, though, is everyone goes home early. Starts at 6, everyone goes home about 8:30, 9 o'clock. Because they're all up at 4 a.m. filming.
Yeah,
So it was amazing. I mean, there are other parties where they stay up a bit longer, but it was like a
of course.
weekday.
In terms of the podcast, there's nothing. I've never had anybody that's really, really famous or anything on the podcast. There's a guy is a Scottish actor, Scottish comedian called Jonathan Watson, who is very well known up here because he used to do a New Year show every year called Only an Excuse. And it was a parody and a spoof on Scottish football.
Right.
And it would be a yearly tradition on Hogmanay on the last day of the year. Every year it would be a brand new episode of this football show. And he would do it. So he was like a household name. And he's also in Two Doors Down. So I just chanced my luck and asked him to come on. I'd never met him before.
Yeah.
And chanced my arm and he agreed to come on. And I was so nervous, getting on Zoom with him. And luckily I found out they we both supported the same football team.
Amazing.
So we just started chatting about that before we started recording, and it totally eased us both, which is pretty good. And then the other one that's always I was starstruck, I guess. You ever seen the Nickelodeon show Keenan and Kel?
I remember it. It was that's a proper callback.
Proper callback. Well, randomly I was in Asda one day, and the mum from Keenan and Kel followed me on Twitter. Just totally random.
Amazing.
So I followed her back immediately and messaged her, and she's like, "Yeah, sure, I'll come on the podcast." So this is a show that I watched growing up, like religiously.
Wow.
Like even now, I've not seen it in years, but I can quote lines. I watched it so much. And then it's just all of a sudden I'm sitting on Zoom with the mum from Keenan and Kel. So that was a good one.
Cool. Oh my god, that's really cool. I love that. And now
But
you're
yeah, so
here
I'm
with me. Sorry about that. Now look at where you've sunk to now, you poor man.
Honestly, it just sent me places, It sent me places. But yeah, that's the biggest thing with the podcast, though. Getting to speak to these people, and even not just the podcast, but just in general in this industry, getting a chance to speak to people that you've looked up to or watched in some way is always pretty cool,
And it is lovely, and they say you don't meet your heroes, but I've met a few, and they've all been incredibly cool. So,
I love that.
That's nice, isn't it? It is. It's great. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So I asked you last time when we watched Oppenheimer if you could remember the first time, or we talked about Oppenheimer, the first time you ever went to the cinema.
Yeah.
And I think you talked about Star Wars, which is probably I'm so jealous about. I'm going to flip it this time as we are now on another episode. Can you remember the last film you saw at the cinema, and was it Oppenheimer?
It was not Oppenheimer.
Nice.
It was
Hit me with it.
Barbie.
Okay.
Because we did that day. We did the double.
You did the double?
We did the double, yeah. There's a great cinema not very far from us called the Olympic in Barnes, sort of in southwest London. And it used to be the Olympic Recording Studios. So their kind of strapline for the cinema is Abbey Road had the Beatles, we had everybody else. And everyone's recorded there, like Def Leppard, Queen, Prince, like anyone you can. I don't want to say Def Leppard, I don't, but they did. But I don't even know any of their songs. And loads of really famous people have gone in there and recorded. But it shut down in I think it's like early noughties, and then somebody bought it, redid it, and made it into a 2-screen cinema, and it's beautiful, and it's got an amazing sound systems, comfy seats, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, yeah, we often go to the Olympic because it's an amazing place, and that's the second time we've seen a double there. The first time was a while ago, and the double that we saw was do you remember the movie Inside Out?
Yeah.
So we watched Inside Out, and then we watched Legend. The Cray twins.
Yes.
It's not quite Barbenheimer, but
they're pretty much the same film,
It was exactly. But we because we thought, oh no, we kind of thought it's hilarious. The whole Barbenheimer thing was very funny, and I thought it was very. It was just I just really enjoyed the whole ride on that, and the fact
Yeah,
that they were giving each other that kind of publicity, I thought was fantastic, and
brilliant. Yeah.
it's extraordinary. I think that people are now thinking the next double is going to be like Paw Patrol and Saw. Not sure that's going to work, but Saw Patrol, I'm sure it's not going to be.
Patrol, yeah.
But we went along and we loved it because people were like, oh no, God, don't watch Oppenheimer first because it'll spoil it. And it didn't. It was, you can differentiate between two movies and you can't get more different.
Right.
But also both brilliantly executed. Barbie was
Yeah.
fantastic. I absolutely loved it. I was laughing so hard at the beginning, the opening gag, that I was nudged. It was like, sorry, but
What one was the opening gag? Because I would
the
probably laughed at it as
the,
well.
the 2001 gag that they.
Oh, I
that they-
see. Yeah.
It was brilliant. I thought it was hilarious, and it just kept going and going and going and going, and everyone was pitch perfect in that film. I
Yeah.
absolutely loved it.
Not to be confused with the Pitch Perfect movies as well.
Not to be confused with Pitch Perfect movie, or to be confused with Pitch Black, which would be a very odd combination if you've seen that film. No, you won't, because it's a horror movie.
I've not seen it.
It's a 1999 horror movie starring Vin Diesel. It's a sci-fi horror. It's very good.
Interesting.
Pitch Black.
But
It's
yeah,
very good.
I'm sitting there watching Barbie, and I don't know if you've ever had this in the cinema before, but you're just like, I just don't imagine anybody disliking this because it's so much fun, right?
Yeah.
And then you leave the cinema and you just see lots of backlash, and you're going, what are people thinking? It's just crazy. I don't know how you feel about the Star Wars sequels, right? But I was sitting watching The Last Jedi, right?
Yeah.
Just being like, they've done it again. This is great. I'm having a great time. I love the story. I love the way the film is made. I love the tone of the film. It's different than the last one. The acting's great. Oh, amazing. And then you just see this total backlash online, and I'm like, I end up feeling a bit silly. Like, am I missing something here? Like,
No,
why is the negativity, you know?
Not at all. I think people have their own idea of what they want it to be, and if it doesn't exactly fit what they prescribed to themselves it's going to be, they get upset. And you know what? I went through that when I saw the prequels, the sort of Phantom
Right.
Menace and Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. I remember watching them going, I don't like this. I don't like it. But then after a while, I realized that they're not for me. They're for a
Right.
new generation. And,
Right.
But oddly, now I'm like a generation on from that. I watched them again and thought, oh, these are really good.
Yeah.
So you just got to be
Absolutely.
able to think about it and then try and understand why and how it was made and who made it and for whom, and then go back and revisit and enjoy. And I mean, what I like about Last Jedi, and there's the visuals in that, there's some beautiful set pieces.
Yeah.
My God, is I love what Mark Hamill did.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't sure about the decision of where his character should go. And he had this conversation with Ryan Johnson about it, so I've read. But the point is, he did it because he's that kind of amazing actor. You go, right, well, let's just go for it and see what happens. And he's always done that with everything he does. That's why I think Mark Hamill is such a great actor. And his ending, spoilers for now, in that movie was beautiful. It was perfect, actually.
Absolutely.
Because he didn't harm a single person. And that's beautiful. He saved lives.
Right.
Didn't take a single one.
And it's just ultimately Star Wars, and he's Luke Skywalker. You know what I mean? He's one of the greatest good guys in cinema history.
Yeah,
you know,
he didn't do and I love that. I love that. He's you're expecting this. We were all expecting this massive lightsaber battle, and we got it, but we didn't, and it was so clever. I really liked it. I liked it a lot. And he did this amazing thing that and no one should be able to have done what he did because of the power it required or whatever. And that's very cool. Without, he doesn't summon a sky beam or open up a hole that throws everyone, picks everybody up and throws them into space. He just does an amazing misdirection. And he got to kiss his sister goodbye.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just total. Isn't Star Wars just the best? You come out of, a Star Wars screening and you're just so happy. You're just smiling ear to ear. You just feel like you've seen something completely different. And I can just imagine what you were like when you saw, I don't know if you said it was the original Star Wars or Empire, but when you saw them at the cinema
Oh
and
yeah.
for the first time, it must have changed you as a person.
It did. It twisted my little melon. It has to be said. I
Yes.
mean, I was obsessed. I was obsessed, and I saw the original Star Wars
Right.
in the cinema, and then Empire, and then Return of the Jedi. And what I remember being, what was I? I must have been just 10, 11 maybe, when Return of the Jedi came out, because it came out in '83,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure if it came out in the cinemas here in '83,
Okay.
because back in those days there was quite a long delay
Yeah.
between a release in America and release here. I might be wrong, so I was either 10 or 11, but I do remember watching it right through to the end, and I loved the Ewoks, still do, and being immensely satisfied, just like that's done,
Yeah.
great, and I just moved on with my life, loving Star Wars.
Yeah.
And then we got more of them, and the thing is, I think people, as I said, a lot of people do get it into their head as to what they want, and if they don't get exactly what they've asked for on the menu of their mind, then they're not happy, and you should just be grateful that another Star Wars thing's being made.
This is it. This is my point, and it's also you didn't make the film.
No,
This is the way the films have been made. This is the way they're written. This is the
yeah,
ending,
that's why
and I
they're
understand
surprising.
exactly. And I understand people are like really passionate about it. One of the most passionate fan bases ever is
Yeah,
Star Wars fans. And that's great for a lot of reasons, and it means we're getting all this new stuff. Um, and it's nice to see. Obviously, you've not managed to catch Ahsoka yet, but it's nice to see that it's generally mostly positive opinions and
good.
reviews and stuff, and that's going to be hard, in any kind of massive fandom, or franchise. But yeah, long story short, I'm loving Ahsoka. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on it. And I think a lot of people are doing that. They're kind of waiting for the binge. I enjoy the water cooler chat. The fact that
Yeah,
it's like a new one every week. But I don't know. I feel like I take it in more if I'm binging it. So
I mean, again, I just haven't. I wish I'd had time to watch it. I really do.
yeah,
But as I said, it's been difficult not to do so. But when I do, I am going to sit down and get into it, because I know I'm going to enjoy it. And being able to watch one after the other will be fantastic.
yeah.
So yeah, that's I'm really looking forward to it.
So, in terms of picking a favorite film, right? I
Mm,
kind of knew it was going to be the thing because we chatted about it briefly when we
sure.
talked about Oppenheimer a couple weeks ago. But it's a classic horror film, a classic thriller, I suppose, that I feel like is not as sort of appreciated as maybe ones like Halloween and other ones in that genre. Why is it one of your favorite films, or is it your number one favorite movie of all time?
I don't have a number one because my moods
Yeah, it's
change,
hard.
but it's up there because
Yeah,
I've seen it so many times. I've seen The Thing a lot, and I also have seen Harvey a lot. So
right,
my tastes
right.
are usually with the slightly weird, but not necessarily stuck in one place. But I love The Thing because it did something for me that I had never seen before, which was essentially a monster movie, which wasn't somebody in a suit. That's what it
Yeah.
did for me. Now, Alien, which came out a couple of years before, was
79, I want to say.
79, so maybe a year before. Was it 1980? No, 82 it came out. So yeah, 3 years before.
Yeah.
Which was, again, a stunning film. Another one of my favorite movies. Every single actor in that movie sells it 100%. The design is gorgeous. Ridley Scott's cinematography is amazing. Actually, well, I can't remember his DOP's name, but I've got friends of mine who'll be shouting at me if they listen to this, telling me what it is, who he is rather, and it is stunning, and the alien design is incredible, but it's still somebody wearing a suit, a
Right.
very tall somebody wearing a suit who was very, very good, but still somebody wearing a suit. When we watched The Thing, there are moments in that your brain is going, I don't know what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
And I think that's amazing. Amazing that you can create something like that on film. And it's been sculpted by a mad genius effects designer Rob Bottin, who did incredible work on that. So that's one of the things I like about the thing. I like the isolation of it. Again, I think it's really interesting. I like all the characters because they don't get a lot of time to create them, and they really dig deep into character actors of the 1970s to show you who you've got. So you like people like Donald Moffat in there. You've got the amazing, of course, Kurt Russell. Keith David is incredible, one of the greatest voices out there, playing Childs. Wilfred Brimley, who is amazing, plays Blair.
I mean, great name.
Wilfred Brimley. Did you ever see Cocoon?
I don't think so.
It's worth watching. It's a 1980s aliens not alien style. It's a 1980s movie involving aliens, but they're a bit more benevolent, and it's set in an old people's home.
Right.
And Wilfred Brimley is one of the residents of this old people's home. And he's 56 in it, I think. 55. He's in an old people's home. I'm 50. Wilfred Brimley is my age in The Thing.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh my God. And I tell people that, and they'll go, yeah. I was like, oh, okay. Oh, thanks. But yeah,
you resemble him every day. You know.
Yeah. I really do. If I shave this off and just kept the moustache they used to have, I'd look like that. But didn't have a moustache in The Thing. No. But he's brilliant in it. There's just loads and loads and loads of brilliant actors in it. It's a very clever movie. It ramps up paranoia brilliantly. The horror moments are very horrific. There are really lovely little comic touches in there, which are really, really good. The actor, David something, who plays Palmer, is very subtle as the stoner kind of a mechanic character. And he's really great, and he has one of the best lines in the movie that has been copied countless times afterwards. Do you remember?
I think I remember them mentioning it in that documentary, but I can't remember the exact line.
When we're going to go into spoiler territory here, is that okay?
Yeah, let's go for it. Yeah.
When Norris, there's that amazing scene where Norris has the heart attack.
Yeah.
And the doctor does the defibrillator, but because Norris is actually one of the things, thinks it's being attacked by the electricity, so the chest opens up, and the doc's arms go in, and then they get bitten off, and then they torch it with their flamethrowers, and then Norris's head comes off his body, sprouts legs, and starts to walk out. And you just see that lovely moment where he's just walking out, and you got like two or three of the actors kind of just turn around and watch. And that's when Palmer says, "You got to be effing kidding."
Yeah.
And it's brilliant. It's an absolutely brilliant moment. And people laugh out loud amongst all this horror. And people have tried to copy that line again and again and again in subsequent movies, and it's never worked. Not like that.
No.
Because you've got to build up to that first. You got to all this incredible chaos and these extraordinary visuals. Then you get that, and it was perfectly delivered.
Is it not more impactful someone saying something like that than just screaming in terror? You know
Exactly.
what I mean? That's more memorable, with a funny, quirky line like that.
It absolutely is. And that entire sequence was extraordinarily done. Did you see the interview with Rob Bottin about that?
I may have done it. If it's in the documentary, I've definitely seen it, but I'm not sure.
Because what they did for that moment, because you look at it and you go, how they did that? How did they do that? That was practical. How did they do that?
Yeah.
So Doc, the guy, Copper is his name. That's Richard Basehart, I think his name is. The actor is another brilliant actor.
Richard Mazer?
Richard Mazer plays Clark.
Oh, yeah, Desart. Yeah. Richard Desart plays Dr. Cooper. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. He. What they did is they'd found this man who was a double arm amputee who lost his arms in an industrial accident. And they fitted these false arms with kind of made of gel onto him, so they get chopped off, and he goes back. And the other thing they'd done is they created Richard Basehart's face with like a silicone mask. They put that on him, and that moment where he rears back and he's screaming, that's all they need to get that moment. Then they do a close up back on the actor's face, so you don't see the arms, and that's how they did it. And you think, my God, that kind of the thought process to put all that together is extraordinary.
Right.
And there's several people underneath this thing operating the pneumatics and everything they need to do to make it all happen, with things squirting everywhere. And you just think all of this effort for this extremely short but very impactful sequence is amazing. And I just can't. I admire that so much. It's extraordinary. Yeah.
That's it. It's totally admirable, because it's just, that it's practical physical effects, and it's not, and there's nothing wrong with, special effects. I love the fact that we've got all these great films now with some of these amazing effects, right? But there's something really charming about the fact that this was early 80s, and the thought process that's gone into this is really appreciated, you know?
And not just the thought process, but the effort. I mean, Rob Bottin was basically hospitalized after that, because he put so much into this, and you can see it. The artistry that goes into these extraordinary sculptures that he made. In fact, Richard Mazur or whatever, I don't know how to pronounce his name, I'm afraid to say, another amazing actor. He was quoted as saying it's some of the most beautiful things he's ever seen, because of the artistry that went into those effects. And apparently the crew used to make fun of Bottin because he'd always want them to put less light on his work. They're like, but mate, it looks amazing. Like, no, just bring it down. It's really interesting, really interesting. And Stan Winston is worked on it with him as well, but he's uncredited because he was like, no, this is Rob's movie. I'm just helping him out. So they kind of thank him in the credits. And Stan Winston, of course, does loads of amazing creature effects, and the Stan Winston Workshop. But Rob Bottin again has done lots and lots of stuff, and apparently he met Winston on and Rick Baker, who was another incredible effects person. They all met on Star Wars. They were making masks for the creatures in the cantina.
Cool.
Because apparently, a good mate of mine was telling me this. An amazing film director called Mark Price, who should also get on here. We would do one together. It'd be great fun.
I'd love that. Yeah.
He was saying that he read that Lucas didn't really like any of the designs that were originally made for the creatures in the cantina. So that's when the wide shots, you don't really see any of the hero creatures. They get the close-ups because they had they got these guys to remake them. And then they kind of dotted them around the cantina, so you get all those lovely moments. But you generally don't see many of them in the cantina in the wide. So it's pretty interesting. But so that's how they met. But Bottin did so many incredible things for that movie and worked so hard. And Carpenter was worried that people might laugh at this film because of the idea. But when he saw the creatures that Bottin was making, he was like, "Nah, we're fine. It's going to be amazing."
Yeah.
And he met Rob Bottin on, I think he was doing The Fog, another one of my favorite films, a brilliant ghost story. It's really great. And Bottin was working on that. I think he was making a few things like masks and effects, but he also wanted to be in it. And so he was. Nice. There's some really, really good stuff in there, but it's a really cool movie.
Yeah. What I love about The Thing is that it's like one of those films that is kind of, you feel the actors, or the characters I should say, are trapped, right? And it's all set in the one kind of area. Like, for example, Jaws, probably my all-time favorite film.
Yes.
Although, there's different locations, obviously, because of the film, but the main kind of the climax is on that boat. They're trapped there. They're trying to find a way off. Something like Alien or 2001 and these classics as well. So I love the idea of that, where it's just them. There's no hope. They need to try and conquer this themselves. And I think in terms of depictions of alien-like creatures in film, this has got to be one of, I don't know what aliens are going to look like, right? Or if they even exist. However, I can probably imagine it's something like this. You know what I mean? Like it's. I think it's one of the best depictions of what an alien could look like, and it's just done so well. The fact you're looking at it actually disturbed just by looking at the different incarnations of what this alien is able to shapeshift into.
Yeah.
It's just very interesting of what Carpenter imagined the alien creature should look like. You know?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, and it's down to the performances that support that and the incredible makeup and effects that are in there. But yeah, when your brain can't quite latch onto what it's watching, I love that. It's really, really, it's really attractive to me to watch. And then you start spotting the details. So there's a lovely moment in the dog pen.
Right.
Obviously, when
terrifying scene.
Yeah,
oh my God.
it's like, I mean, we should talk about the dog. So there's two dogs playing that one dog.
Okay.
Running through the snow at the beginning. That is an Alaskan Malamute dog, because obviously they were shooting out in Alaska, and then they were shooting in studio with the dog inside, and that dog was called Jed, the inside dog, and he's a wolf dog, so he is like half wolf, half domestic dog.
Okay.
And he was in other movies like White Fang and White Fang 2, and that dog is not only one of the best dog or animal performances on screen, but I think it's just one of the best performances on screen, because when he was walking through quietly through the corridors, just still and just like really focused, like, oh my God, I know human actors who can't act that well. And then when he just kind of sits down quietly in the dog pen, I always have this idea that he's sort of saying, good evening, fellow dogs. I too am a dog, by the way. I'm just going to sit here for a moment. And then like all the dogs go, hang on a minute. What's that? That's not a dog. Okay, I'm going to eat you then.
They all start growling. Yeah,
it's brilliant.
I mean, that's one of the first things I wrote down in my notes. Excellent dog direction and excellent dog acting, because my God, like, I don't know what it is. See the opening shot, or I don't know if it's the very first shot, but one of the first shots, the set is very intimidating with this just surrounding of the snow, right?
Yeah.
They use the surrounding overwhelming amount of snow, the dog, and then like lots of shaky cam at first. And those are three things that kind of hit you in the face in terms of these are three intimidating things. If they used any one of these things, and no pun intended, in a film, then it would be, something, you feel a little bit nervous, because, if there's going to be a dog that looks really cute and beautiful and it's going to get harmed, then that's a bad thing. The overwhelming amount of snow that they just look as if anyone's going to be involved in here, there's no way out. And then the shaky cam just for, post, I guess, effect. But the fact all three are in those first 5 minutes of the film, along with the absolutely unbelievable music that I'm sure we'll chat about. It just sets the tone so right for the entire film, and the fact that the dog then carries that on, even just by walking through the corridor. And I must say, the other scenes where there's characters running down the corridor, followed by a camera that's literally running with the actor, is so effective. And again, makes you feel quite intimidating and tense, which is what we're going
so
for. So
closed in. I mean, this harsh environment outside. You're absolutely right. And what's really interesting is, I mean, the movie starts and you're like, what's going on? I mean, you get that opening bit with that you think, is that a flying saucer that crashes into the Earth's atmosphere? Right. Some people don't like that beginning because it gives it away. Like, I don't care. I think it's great. It looks good.
Yeah, and just there, I forgot that is actually the beginning of the film. You know, because it's so away from what we're used to, just seeing that white snow everywhere. You know what I mean?
And when it opens, you don't know what's happening because you got your dog running through the snow and you got the helicopter and you got grenades. You're like, what is going on? And then when the helicopter lands and the Norwegian dude gets out, he tells us exactly what's going on. But unfortunately, neither we or you and I, I'm assuming, nor the characters can speak Norwegian, because he actually says it's not a dog, it's a thing. Get away from it. Or worse to that effect. Yeah, he basically tells them that is not a dog.
Wow.
But they don't speak Norwegian.
And I wonder how that went down in Norway.
They're like, man. They just get out. And they're like, oh, well, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's really interesting. I did not know that. I didn't know
Yeah,
that's what he says.
it's brilliant. Just the fact that you are told exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
But I think maybe not the first line spoken, but certainly one of the first 6 or 7 lines spoken is a huge spoiler, which I think is genius. Unless, of course, you speak Norwegian or you're in Norway and you speak Norwegian. So yeah,
Right.
it's great. But it's a brilliant open. But what I was saying is about the detail. So when you had the dog thing in the dog pen,
Yeah.
and when it's making its big transformation, and then Childs comes with his flamethrower. I'm not sure why they have flamethrowers in the Antarctic, but it doesn't matter. He gets his flamethrower, and then he aims it, and then there's that bit that kind of flies out towards him like an open flower. Like
Yeah.
that. The kind of the petals of that open flower are dog tongues,
Oh,
and they're lined with dog's teeth.
wow.
And you go, wow, what kind of mind comes up with that?
Right. I like the
Brilliant.
moment where the Norwegian guy goes to throw the grenade and it like slips out his hand.
Don't.
Of course. Why has this
Oh,
happened of all
he's having
times?
the worst day of his life.
Yes. There's something about the fact they're shooting at a dog though that makes you go, "Oh God, oh this is worse than shooting at a human."
Yeah,
You know, and I'm
definitely.
not the biggest dog guy in the world, but my God, you do feel for the dog,
You
and the
really
fact
do.
that that there's so many of them trapped with these guys, in this research project in the Antarctica. You
Yeah.
know, so yeah, very interesting.
It's very interesting when you like. There's a bit where they go back and you see that Blair has killed all the dogs, and there's
Right.
that shot of that one poor dog with the axe in it. And I remember watching it with people, and they go, "Oh," like that, and you go, "You just saw a dog's head fall off." And it
Right.
transforms it, but but you're disturbed by that, and it's because everyone's hardwired to look after and love dogs. Quite right
Now
too.
listen, some people would say it's barking mad.
Oh,
Um,
should we
so
take a pause there, shall we?
well, nice
Thank you.
one.
And now we're
Uh,
thinking of dog puns. Keep going,
no,
keep going.
thanks for
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I sometimes struggle in big kind of ensemble casts, right? When it comes to a lot of characters, especially same with Alien, I think, especially the fact that it's not that long of a film. The thing, it's about an hour and 40, right? Which to me
Yeah.
is perfect film length
Oh,
for
it's
me, right?
gorgeous. Yeah, yeah.
Um, and there's so many characters, and you can't really get to know everybody.
No.
And I think it's when it comes on rewatch that you kind of start to get the quirks between Palmer and Childs and things like that. But I think they do a good job to the fact where where you actually don't want certain people to change, and you don't want them to be one of the things. And you really enjoy Kurt Russell's character,
Oh, I
McCready,
mean, yeah.
and you're really hoping that he survives, and you're hoping that he's not a thing, which
But
is
again,
quite.
the ambiguity of that ending is perfect.
Yeah, exactly, and they've done quite a good job. The fact that it's not the longest film, we've not had a lot of background on him, but we do care for him, and it's down to Kurt Russell's great performance, I think.
Absolutely.
Um,
And the care for each other. There's a lovely moment
yeah,
where they find that Bennings has been assimilated. Bennings is the guy who wore the sort of the orange. He's the guy who gets shot.
yeah,
The
yeah,
guy and the ginger dude with the ginger beard. And when he says to Gary, who's like running the place, he's the guy with the gun, and he says, "But I know Bennings. He's my friend." And you really feel that moment. These actors
yeah,
are selling that it's really real, and that they're. I mean, I know that's their job, but they do it so
right,
well with not that many lines. And you're right, with not a lot of setup, but you just get it because that's what Carpenter's brilliant at is setting up characters, giving you enough for you to go, oh, I like them, but
yeah,
not overplaying it. I think a lot of movies nowadays, a lot of horror movies nowadays, go, here's some people, now they're dying, and you're like, well,
yeah,
I don't care about them because you haven't given me a chance to get to know them at all.
yeah,
And that's obviously not with. There's lots of movies that don't do that, but there
yeah.
is quite a lot who just they don't seem to care about us caring. Like there's another personal favorite movie of mine, which I'd also like to talk about one day. The Blob, 1988.
Nice.
Another horror movie. They take ages to get around to it's all starting to kick off. And what they do is they make you, and it's what's the name of that amazing director, writer? Frank Darabont wrote it. Chuck Russell directs, and they spend so long letting you get to know the town and the people in this little town, you forget that it's actually a horror movie.
Right.
And then it all kicks off and you're devastated. There's one
Wow.
particular death in that, which is heartbreaking and incredible and horrifying. It's you might not like it. It's very melty, The Blob, but it is good.
No, I'll check it out. I'll definitely
Check it out, man. Check it out. I'm happy to talk to you about it because I have a lot of love for The Blob. But back to the thing, you're right. But he's really efficient in setup. That's what John Carpenter does brilliantly.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's talk quickly about the music. So is this? I mean, I don't know what you would call the most iconic score in cinema history. Jaws, maybe Jurassic Park.
I think Jaws is definitely one of them. Yeah, I mean, you can see John Williams working out. I mean, he'd been working for years before that, but he was working out stuff in that, and you're like, oh yeah. And you can hear echoes of his work then through all of his other movies as they get better and better. Obviously, all bigger and bigger. I should say. I don't think there's any movie better than Jaws, frankly, but there we are.
Me too. I agree on that one.
But the music makes it. And it adds so much to it, and does Ennio Morricone's score in this, which is so stripped back, especially for Ennio Morricone, because he was the stuff he would do was extraordinary and beautiful, but just these simple chords, it was brilliant. Yeah, I love it.
The first time I watched this was 2 years ago, right? When I got the Blu-ray, and I put it in, and obviously in the main menu before you hit play on the film, the songs or the score's playing before the film even starts, and immediately when you're on the main menu, you're getting into the zone of the film, and it's so I say it's so simple. It's obviously not simply done, right? But it's, in theory, it's just a few chords or whatever. It's so impactful, just those.
And that's the point. I think to be able to create something that impactful, it takes an extraordinary amount of talent. And for it to seem simple is the genius behind it.
Exactly, right.
Because apparently he wrote an orchestral score.
Wow.
Which they didn't use. And Quentin Tarantino told this story. I think I'm remembering this right, where he wanted Morricone to, or he approached him about writing music for The Hateful Eight. Mm-hmm. And Morricone was like, "I'm sorry, man, I haven't got the time. But I do have this old score that was never used for The Thing. And would you like that?" And you can imagine Tarantino going, yes. So apparently he uses some of that in The Hateful Eight, which is an homage to The Thing.
Wow, of course it is. Yeah, there's another film that is set in one location. The characters are trapped.
They're trapped by snow.
Yeah, trapped by snow. Yeah.
So it's really interesting. So but the music is brilliant. Simple, stripped back electronic. Oh, it's gorgeous, really good. All those lovely strings. The way it's lit. Who's the DOP on that? Is it Dean Cundy? I think. In the Blu-ray, it looks brilliant.
Yeah. One of the best Blu-ray transfers I've maybe ever seen, actually, of a film.
Yeah, it was lovingly done. But Arrow do that all the time. They're great.
They're really good, yeah. So if I was to say to you the year 1982 in cinema, how many classic films come to mind?
Well, The Thing, Star Trek II: Wrath of Khan.
Yes.
I'm trying to think now. There's going to be more.
It's just because of the feature.
Slayer? Is Hawk the Slayer 1982?
I'm not sure. I've got a Google on here of all of them, because there's a feature on the Blu-ray, basically just 1982
E.T.
in cinema. E.T. is the big one, yeah.
E.T. is what basically ruined The Thing.
In terms of alien films.
Yeah, The Thing came out 2 weeks after E.T. and people were like, why are we watching it? We want to see the nice one.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't realize it was like 2 weeks apart.
It got hammered at the box office. Yeah. The Thing. In fact, I'm gonna be very boring, but I'm gonna look. I looked something up on here. Some of the reviews.
Oh yeah, please do. Yeah.
Would you like to hear?
Yeah. I'll read you out. Once you find them, I'll read you out some other films that came out in 1982. Okay, so we have someone that I share a birthday with, Gandhi.
Hello.
There's something we have in common. You'll never believe it, but Poltergeist.
of course, Poltergeist. Oh my god.
Blade Runner.
Oh god, I'm going to get people are going to laugh at me because I love all these movies and I forgot they're all 1982.
Nah, I know. I don't mean like we're quizzing you. I just mean in general. This year is ridiculous, right?
Yeah, it's so good.
So we get E.T. Annie. One that I watched recently that I loved, The King of Comedy with
Oh
Robert
my
De Niro.
god, one of the most terrifying performances committed to film.
Amazing film, I thought.
I think Rupert Pupkin is more frightening than Travis Bickle.
Okay. Pupkin, that's right, that's his name.
Brilliant name.
Conan the Barbarian, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, First Blood, The Snowman,
Oh my god.
Tron.
The Snowman caused more trauma than The Thing. That movie had more kids crying.
I love The Snowman.
It's great, but it's just heart-wrenching.
It is.
It's
Rocky 3, the best Rocky film.
Oh my god! Wow, with Clubber Lang, fantastic.
All in the one year. Halloween 3 and
Season of the Witch, great movie.
And another one that is one of the best sequels of all time. There's two great sequels of all time. One is Grease 2, but Airplane 2, the sequel,
brilliant,
was 1982 as well. So what a year!
What a year! What a year! I'm ashamed I didn't know all of those because there's some absolute crackers in there. I'm glad I got Wrath of Khan though. I'm pleased about that.
There you go. All right, hit me with some of these reviews and then we'll finish.
All right, so let me give you some of these ones. This is what happened to poor old John Carpenter's The Thing. In Starlog magazine, critic Alex Spencer wrote, John Carpenter's The Thing smells, and smells pretty bad. It has no pace, sloppy continuity, zero humour, bland characters on top of being totally devoid of either warmth or humanity.
It's paced brilliantly.
It's my contention that John Carpenter was never meant to direct a science fiction horror movie. Here's some things he'd be better suited to direct. Traffic accidents, train wrecks, and public floggings.
Jeez,
do you know what I mean? I mean, like, I think there's something against him.
Right. No, you said earlier on, if you're sitting watching a film and you go, okay, this isn't for me. I don't know if The Thing was for this guy that wrote this review.
I think you might be right. I mean, like, there are others. Let me just see if there's another one. Sorry, I know man looking up things on the internet is not great for.
That's all right.
Let's have a look. But yeah, I mean, it's unbelievably bad.
There's plenty of like classic films that this has happened to, where it's not done well at the box office and it's gotten slated and stuff, and then we're sitting here 40 years later or whatever it is, talking about how much we love it, and that's at the time you'd go, where did this review come from?
This is why VHS was so important, because it revived so many movies. And the problem is, well, I'll get into that in a moment, but but here's another one. New York Times critic Vincent Canby described the movie as foolish, depressing, with its actors used merely as props to be hacked, slashed, disemboweled, and decapitated, finally to be eaten and then regurgitated. It is too phony to be disgusting. It qualifies only as instant junk.
Oh, man. Do you think it's because they've not seen much like this before, and they've just been like,
exactly
that's not how cinema is?
They didn't know what to make of it. That is the thing about The Thing. What was I going to... Sorry, I'm completely...
You're going to talk about... Yeah, I had it and I don't know either.
We'll find it again. That's no problem.
We'll find it, yeah. But this is The Thing, and this is also the Good Bit podcast. What is your favourite bit of The Thing? Favourite moment, favourite scene?
That's really hard because there are so many. Yeah. But I have to say, I think it's the heart attack scene.
It's probably the most shocking, I think.
It's extraordinary. And also Gary's line at the end of the blood testing scene when he says, I know it's been difficult for you gentlemen, but I'd really prefer not to spend the rest of the winter tied to this effing couch. It's fantastic.
Great line.
Yeah, again, expertly delivered by a brilliant actor, Donald Moffat being
Yeah.
fabulous.
No relation, by the way.
Are you sure?
Well, who knows?
You don't know.
Ancestry.com.
Let's have a look.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my favorite. What's yours? Can I ask?
Oh, it's funny that people always ask me the question back, and I should expect that coming. I never prepare this. I most like the scene like when Kurt Russell's character stuck outside, and he comes in and he's got all the frost in his beard and stuff, right? And he looks like he's frozen. And then when McCready kind of takes over, and has them tied to the couch or whatever, and he's going through with the blood samples, I reckon that's probably my favorite scene. Or favorite bit, I suppose, just because it kind of, I think it changes the film. And as I say, we like McCready's character, so the fact that he's the one with the high ground, as Obi-Wan Kenobi would say, you feel quite relieved, and you go, "Oh, well, hopefully he's not in danger just now." But then, of course, the big climax is, the fact that the thing is infesting everywhere in the cabin. He's under the floorboards and stuff like that, which gets a little bit overwhelming. But I like the fact that for a while, McCready's in control. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and I agree. And he delivers. There's a great line when they're outside looking around. They're looking. I can't remember if they're looking for Blair, maybe, but there's a bit where he says, "I'm going to go check out my shack," and they say, "Why?" And he says, "Because when I left last night, I turned the lights off."
Right.
And he goes back up, and you're like, "Oh, that's great." That's I love all that stuff. Although there's lots of stuff in that movie that points towards the fact that McCready could be the Thing.
Absolutely, yeah, and I like that too, though, because you keep questioning, the whole situation, which is important for these sort of films,
Absolutely, and it's so well played, and other lovely moments. Oh my gosh, I think my dog has come into the room.
Oh,
how long was I alone with that dog?
Oh
my God, maybe I'm a thing.
Maybe, but it's good we've captured this on the camera because this could be final moments,
It could be. Let's keep it rolling, see what happens. But another one of my favourite bits, though, is which always makes me laugh, is there's a bit where Gary says, "Well, I'm sure you feel safer if I'm not in charge," and he puts the gun down. And Childs goes, "Well, okay," and they go, "No, not you, Childs. We need somebody less hot-headed than you, right?" And then they give him a flamethrower.
Right.
"Hey, you hothead! Now you just take your flamethrower instead. You won't cause any damage with that."
I do love the fact that like the flamethrower is on for maybe 2 seconds and the whole thing is completely engulfed.
Oh, man.
Whatever they're trying, it looks pretty brutal.
It is. Again, I'd like to know why they have flamethrowers. There might be a reason they have flamethrowers.
Sure, there is
in Antarctic. I'd like to know what it is. What I do love is in the Antarctic at the moment, on like lots of research, or there's a British research station I know that they all get together and watch the Thing every year.
Really?
In the Antarctic Research Station, which I think is fantastic. I would love to do that. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I would gladly pay to go and stay in this inhospitable place just to sit down with those people and watch the movie with them. It would be amazing.
It's like every astronaut needs to watch 2001: A Space Odyssey before they go up.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yes, exactly so. Exactly so. Don't watch Gravity because you might not want to go.
No. Just as you're saying, if you were to book somewhere to go and watch this, have you seen online that you can now book Shrek's Swamp as an Airbnb?
Amazing.
Isn't that amazing?
I'm not sure I'd go because it's a swamp. I'm sure it's not really a swamp. I'm sure it's lovely.
A big fan of camping. No. And I feel like that's what you would do.
Yeah, you're right. No, I'm sure it's beautifully done. But yeah, I've seen it, and it does. It looks awesome. But yeah, if somebody said, "Oh, you can stay in our Antarctic outpost number 31 as an Airbnb," I'm not sure.
As long as you can take the Thing DVD.
Yeah, another interesting fact about that is that when they go to the Norwegian camp that's all blown up and burnt down.
Yeah,
that's the same set that they blew up and burnt down for their set. So
really?
It's the same set. So they after they blew it all up, they went. Yeah. They obviously went, "Oh well, now we can
use this."
They planned to use it instead of building a whole new set, which is another brilliant way of saving money.
Yeah, absolutely. So many interesting points in this film.
Yeah, it's great. It's a cracker. There's nothing. I can't remember what I was going to talk about before, but it'll come back to me later on. It's
I
fine.
think it was something about films that weren't well received at first, and then you said something about VHS. You said something about the introduction.
VHS is the thing that kept the movie alive, and people started talking about it. And it's, I do miss the days of going into video stores and trying to pick the movie you love, seeing it's not there, or the newest movie, and then you go, okay, I've got to get something else because I want to watch a film, and that really helped broaden my horizons as far as movies go, and you can't do that now because there's too much choice, and you can get everything instantly on streaming, which again is a good thing, but I do miss that physical act of leaving the house, maybe seeing people I know in the store, hiring our movie, getting our popcorn, rewinding it, taking it back, and just it was that library idea of, if it's not there, find something else.
And now there is too much choice. I love the fact that there was just a shelf of things. And no pun intended again.
Yeah. I mean, that could be a great sequel. Shelf of things, my God. But again, I'm not dissing streaming services at all. I mean, we're so lucky to have so much available to us. But there is that lovely idea of leaving your house, hunting for a thing that you want. There it is again, to bring back and watch. And then if you come back with something slightly different, because that used to happen as well. Like, my parents might go out and say, we're going to bring back a movie, and we'd be at home, and they went, oh, this wasn't in, but this is in, so let's try it. And we all sit down and watch, and it was cool. I like that. But again, that's I'm looking through rose tinted glasses, of course.
Of course, right. You don't know what you've got until it's not there anymore, though, right? Like, exactly. That was such a thing that you would just be like, yeah, this is what I do now. But then all of a sudden, now you've just got Netflix and Disney Plus, and
which is fabulous. But
and we're spoiled. Yeah,
it's a shame. I think. I just think. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to talk about that all, but I think I mentioned this before. The moment companies start referring to the movies and programs they call as content, it sticks in my core, that I just think it's like, what content's, I don't know, it's content is something that's in a full nappy, or do you know what I mean? It's like, I don't like that idea of content, because you've just taken everything, the art, away from all of it. And I don't like that. Again, I'm sounding like a grumpy old man, and I'm Blair's age, right. So
Right. Content is something that you throw up on your YouTube channel, and that you need to get more people to watch and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, you should maybe treat and talk about films like this with a little bit more regard. I guess that's kind of where you're coming from. And these are masterpieces.
And no disrespect to YouTube channels, of course, as well.
No, of course not. No.
But it's just like it's just, I don't know. It just feels like it's. So much has gone into these films, into all these movies, from the writers through development, production, getting your actors, getting your crew, all this stuff, and then they just kind of goes, just chuck it all on. I don't know. Yeah. It's just it's cheaper, obviously, and that's the thing. And I don't know. It's just a thing that bothers me.
That's why it's important to keep physical media alive.
Yes, please, absolutely.
Buy those Blu-rays and those DVDs and that sort of thing. I love the fact that it's that possessional thing. I own this movie now. This is mine.
Yeah, no one can delete it.
Connection to it.
Yeah, it's like in the middle of the night they can just come in and take it off your shelf, because that's what happens, and it's really annoying.
Yeah. There's so many, I mean, I work with kids all the time, and people say, like, I can't believe they took Friends off of Netflix. And to me, that's so sad, because Friends is one of my favourite TV shows of all time. And I'm like, what do you mean you're not going to get to watch Friends now? You know what I mean? Like, no, it's not ideal. I know they didn't take Friends off Netflix, but that's just an example.
Yeah, but I'm guessing that you've got it on DVD or something, so you could probably lend it to them anyway.
I do.
For a price.
For a price, of course, yes.
Absolutely.
Or an exchange, that's something you used to do. Can I borrow this film or this game for 1 year?
Man. Yeah, absolutely. Always have something to hold on to, just in case they don't get it back.
Yeah, exactly. Well, listen, this has been a pleasure chatting about the thing. I feel like we could go on another hour, but I would more than happily bring you back on to chat about any more of these films that you're so passionate about, like The Fog or The Blob or whatever.
Or The Foggy Blob. Again,
The Foggy Blob. But listen, as you correctly noted, Halloween is in October. So we might end up doing some form of collaboration, even if it's just yourself. If we get Greg involved, who's just back from Universal Studios. I don't know if you saw anything on his social media, but I was so jealous. Oh my God.
That boy has built himself a lightsaber. I'm a very also he's married his sweetheart and love, and she's very beautiful and amazing, by the way. So congratulations, Greg and Luce.
He's built a lightsaber,
but he's built a lightsaber as well. But he's married the love of his life, which is absolutely gorgeous. So I know they've had a wonderful time, and I love their I loved seeing all the pictures of their wedding and stuff. They look so happy. It's so lovely, and it's just gorgeous. I love that. But yes, he built a lightsaber, and I'm really jealous. Although we did talk about going to, like Leanne said to me, do you want to go to Galaxy's Edge? And I went, no, because I would become incredibly overwhelmed, and I would just probably have a panic attack,
and I wouldn't be able to go anywhere. These things happen. You do get overwhelmed. I was in Disneyland Paris back in June, and they have a whole Star Wars section. I mean, it's toned down in the Universal, version, not Universal, but the Florida version or whatever, in America. But the Paris one, even that was almost overwhelming at times. They've changed Space Mountain into Hyperspace Mountain, and it is unbelievable.
Wow.
And you can build your own lightsaber there, but I didn't do that, regrettably.
I might. I don't know. I would get overwhelmed. I'm not sure I could go, but maybe one day. Maybe for my 60th. maybe. So yeah, in terms of your director friend that you mentioned as well, if you want to come back with him, we could do that as well. We could talk about the Blob. We'd have a good time. Yeah, he is a fountain of information about most movies. So that'd be great. I'll have a word with him, and we'll see if you're up for that. That would be great.
I'd love to. Well, thank you everybody for watching and listening, and thank you to you, Michael, for your time. I really appreciate it as always.
My pleasure.
And until next time, folks, take care of yourselves. We'll catch you all down the road.
Bye. Citizens